into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she...
Everyone has a COVID. Welcome to New York, COVID City. I have a nice slice of disease for you. Only $1. Hello, everyone. Listen to the germs in my throat. I am broadcasting live from New York City. This is Jake Flores, and Alex Patak is here.
Welcome, ladies and germs.
Ooh, nicely done. Anders Lee is here.
Anders Lee here, COVID-free here, hopefully, dear.
Ooh, that rhymed.
New shit!
Yeah, cool. Joining us is friend of the show, Rory Blank. What's up? Welcome to the show.
Hello. I don't have anything. Just hello.
Do you have COVID?
I don't think so.
Do you think you're going to get it?
I mean, I'm going to Dallas next week for Christmas, so probably.
Is it big in Dallas?
What's up?
Is it bad? Is there a lot of COVID in Dallas as opposed to Austin? Austin.
I think it's like bad statewide. I mean, we're not really I don't know what it's like in New York at all, but we have pretty much given up on doing anything. There was a long period where like everyone was wearing masks, everyone was staying far apart. Nobody cares anymore. It's COVID essentially doesn't exist here. I mean, it simultaneously does and it doesn't. Like, on the one hand, yes, there is a virus that's killing thousands of people, but on the other hand, nobody cares. It's done.
Okay.
It's over.
So it exists in that it can kill you, but it doesn't exist in that we're going to the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if in Dallas, because I know people are pretty resistant to getting vaccines, maybe less so in a place in Dallas specifically, but maybe they'll have a way of doing it where you get to, if you are told you're going on a history tour and you're in a motorcade and you're standing and waving in a car and then a needle just comes out of nowhere, at least one needle, maybe more than one needle, and sticks you, and then you get the vax without wanting to, and you don't know who did it.
Right.
Woke Dan.
I mean,
is like, this is the reason that the president vaccinated.
Yeah. That's the way you got to vaccinate people in Dallas.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that is how I'm going to get COVID. I've been trying every single fucking time I've gone to Dallas for the holidays with my girlfriend. I have tried to go to the book depository. God damn it, I'm going to go this time, and I'm going to get COVID. I'm going to get COVID from licking one of the pennies from the squished penny machine there, which they have. You can get like a squash penny with like JFK's face on it.
Right. It's a before and after of his head.
Yeah.
Washed.
There's a giant cube.
Probably you couldn't get COVID. Don't actually. This is hella. I can get sued for saying this, but as a joke, you probably couldn't get COVID from licking a penny because brass or bronze or whatever the fuck, all those metals they make doorknobs out of, they're specifically,
there we go.
They disinfect themselves.
Now we're on our Alex Jones shit.
Right. You don't get it from surfaces, right?
Can't get it from a penny. Put as many pennies in your mouth as you want.
Bobby, you probably could, is all I'm saying.
One of the safest ways to travel.
I don't think it's like safe necessarily, but I want to say it's neutral. Lick a penny, you'll probably be fine.
If you swallow a penny, the penny cleans the stomach.
Speaking of pennies, just I know this might be a little bit early before you want to get into the subject, but just that reminded me of a thing that I clipped out from reading Ben Garrison's book. There's a paragraph about pennies in there.
Of course there is. Draws coins all the time with various people's faces on them.
It says specifically, it costs more to produce than it's worth, and all the tiny zinc discs do is annoy people. It never goes away. The government wants it there to annoy us. Ben Garrison is convinced that pennies exist wholly just to bother people.
Well, he's correct about that, though.
That's unfortunately a weird place to start because this is probably going to lean anti-Ben Garrison. But, wrong clock's right twice a day or whatever.
We should take a census of the room and see who's anti or pro-Ben Garrison before and after.
Okay. So far, I'm pro him on the penny question, which puts him at odds with Kevin Federline. If you remember,
think about pennies?
His rival in many ways.
He's pro penny because here in DC, there's a penny lobby that's very distressed that the penny will be eliminated because Garrison is right about this. It is an unnecessary coin. It costs more than a penny to make a penny. Complete waste. And no one likes them. But they're scared because they produce copper and they're the ones who make the pennies. So they hired K-Fed a number of years ago to be a spokesperson for pennies. And Ben Garrison is taking a stand against that. I appreciate that. And also, I have to say, I believe I'm in 100% agreement with him when it comes to Julian Assange. But
yes.
So I can only assume those are the only two things I know about him. He must be right about everything else.
Anders, pro Ben Garrison. Up next, Rory Blank.
Sort of pro. I just there's something I find really charming about him. I mean, his beliefs are terrible. His comics are not really enjoyable at all, but he's got moxie.
Yeah, you do have to kind of admire the guy just because he seems like he doesn't realize what he's doing. It seems like he just has a nice hobby.
Yeah, you do, unfortunately, gotta hand it to him.
Alex Patak, what is your opinion on Ben Garrison?
Well, it can be divisive, but I have to support Ben as he is one of the few cartoonists left supporting America's president, 45, Donald J. Trump. Get on the train. We're taking back America. We're making it great.
Put a penny on the track before the Trump train comes, and it'll smush the penny into gold.
Penny hack.
I personally find Mr. Garrison penny dreadful. So we'll start there.
I really want to ask, though, real quick, what did they think that they were getting specifically out of having K-Fed endorse the penny? Like, what does K-Fed bring to the penny?
I think it was probably the only person they could find.
Well, you get K-Fed, and then it leads to Britney. And then you have Britney on the penny side. That's pretty good.
This was after their split.
Right, but she's like looking at his Instagram and stuff. She's seeing his penny posts.
I mean, at that point, that's all she was getting from her conservatorship was literal pennies. So,
right,
I'm trying to
you know she
conjure an impression to do of him doing pro penny ship. I don't remember really anything about him. In my head, I'm thinking he's J-Rock from Trailer Park Boys.
That would be fine.
Pretty much.
As a substitute.
That's pretty much it. He had a song called Pope Azao, I believe, which was about butts. And you can't really morph that into the word penny. It doesn't really work. So I have nothing.
Bopazao?
Popazao.
Penazao.
Okay.
Is that the sound a butt makes, or the sound you make looking at a butt?
I think it's like a Portuguese word.
It's about Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball Z.
Popozao. Look at that.
Okay, so
him and Kami, and they're just they're off to the side, just eyeing some woman's hot ass. Yes.
Kami can see your ass from thousands of miles away. He's Earth's guardian. And Mr. Popo is his secret boyfriend, but we can't talk about that right now.
So I looked up an article from 2006 about his penny endorsement, and apparently there's a rally in Times Square in July 2006 where K-Fed rolls up in a red pickup truck wearing an Abraham Lincoln mask, driving the swarm of paparazzi around the truck into a frenzy. Man, I feel good about the penny. Declared Federline, who was Natalie dressed. That's their ABC News' words. Natalie dressed in a black suit, white dress shirt, aviator sunglasses, and sporting his trademark stubble.
Trademark
so
stubble.
Funny. He doesn't care. This is just how much of a goon for hire he is.
How many of y'all like the penny?
This is how what's his face, Dennis Rodman became really into the DPRK. It just anybody that's nice to you, if you're that type of guy,
yeah,
you'll just show up on behalf of.
Oh, do you mean by reading, Jake? by looking into history.
I apologize, Rod. It's not the supreme leader of basketball.
So apparently a bunch of people were in on this. Virgin Mobile was in on this, and they introduced, because this is when you had to pay per text.
Mhm.
So they introduced its new 1 cent text messaging offer. And the people ask, how did Federline get involved in saving the penny? And they say, he likes to text message, said a Virgin representative.
Facts. I believe it.
Federline made a show of text messaging from the stage as a Virgin executive talked about the Save the Penny campaign and asked who he was sending a message to. Federline replied, my wife.
Okay.
Oh,
the penny lobby is evil and it must be destroyed. I need no more convincing.
He was texting at a picture of his wife's butt, Popo Zhao.
I guess so. I don't know if they were. I think they were split up at that point, though. Kevin Federline. When did he break up with Britney?
It was really fast.
It's probably over the penny thing.
Oh no! You know what? They were together during the penny thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This
They were officially
This goes back to
married.
my theory. I mean, you only get Kevin Federline because you're hoping, like, then at the Britney table, what are we talking about for dinner? The goddamn penny, and bringing it back.
That picture of him with the Lincoln mask is insane. That's like not even a spirit Halloween Lincoln mask. That's like the shitty Halloween mask you get from the drugstore for your stupid child that doesn't understand Halloween yet.
I mean, it's crazy. This is the height of his popularity because he hadn't even been dumped by Britney yet. So he was leveraging it into endorsements, and the only people.
Right, when he thinks back on like his golden days, it's him in the Abraham Lincoln mask showing up. Everybody's going crazy. He's throwing pennies at the crowd.
And this is why she dumped him, right? His obsession.
Maybe she's a nickel gal.
Who wants to make a wish? Throws pennies.
Yeah.
Well,
She's. Go ahead. Oh no! Hold on. All right. Let me segue my concept. I want to before we get entirely fucking derailed. I do want to mention that the reason I asked Rory to come onto the show is because I don't think he's ever been on the show, but you might enjoy his art and not even know it. Rory's done a lot of cool shit for us illustration wise, like our logo. The last two logos, the one with the rats, the one with the skull, a lot of show posters and stuff I have. So please, if you like art and cartoons and shit like that and cool t-shirts, check out Rory's stuff at Bone Jail on Twitter. I've known Rory for a long time. He's a cartoonist. And that's why that's the angle here, I think, that is important to point out as we talk about Ben Garrison, because this is sort of a continuation of a conversation that me and Rory had at Fest. We were both there. Somehow we started talking about Ben Garrison, and I didn't know a lot of shit about Ben Garrison's past, because I think if you're like me, we all exist just under the reign of terror that Ben Garrison puts out all day, every day, as like people that his cartoons are directed at. But like, I never thought about this, what it must be like to also be a cartoonist and like probably know stuff about him from message boards and shit, or like inside, like when we talk about comics and we're like, no, that guy's a complete asshole, or he's really cool in real life or whatever. So that's the angle here. That's the trajectory from which we're going to dive into the mind of Ben Garrison today. Rory, did you leave the house?
Yes.
I was kind of going along because I could see in the Zoom window that you're like outside and walking around.
He's going in a garage now.
Sorry about that. I just walked out of my house and went into my garage.
Oh, I see. I thought we were going to the store or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Marin style.
I mean, I can do that if you want.
One time I had a guest on the phone and she went to a restaurant in the middle of a podcast.
Oh, tight. That rules.
What did she order?
I don't know. We found out she was at a restaurant. We're like, hang up. You can't do this at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Sounds like shit.
Podcast is not that important. You don't have to do this. It's a good episode, though. People really liked it. Not going to say who it was because she was very nice, but she did go to a restaurant.
I just went to hide in my garage because my girlfriend's entire family is about to come over to look at her lizard.
To look
Okay.
at her
You know
lizard.
who was at a restaurant recently and caught COVID there? Ben Garrison.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
did. He got COVID. He said he was trying to treat it with beet juice.
Beet juice is very good for you. It's a great place to start.
Did he get it at a restaurant? Is that part of the story?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean that's basic because he lives in Montana, and so obviously a wide area of land, but
Yeah, how the fuck did he get COVID up there? Because
a restaurant.
See other people. I guess that's the only place you would go to see other people. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
He lives in the middle of nowhere.
Right. I have been looking at his YouTube page out of vague curiosity since we started talking about doing a podcast about him. And it's weird because he is famous on, he has like a lot of followers on like Twitter and stuff because that's a medium where he can post his cartoons. But he has this YouTube page that's like, got the official check mark and everything, but nobody watches it. It's like, how the fuck are you going to put out cartoons on it? So it's him just standing around in like the snow in Montana and doing little promotional videos. And like, there's one of his wife, like filming him as he rollerblades. And she's like, there he goes. He's oh my God, he's going to fall down. And it's like 900 views. Like no one's seeing this.
I'm watching one right now that's just a video of a woodpecker you saw. And then it cuts to a horse. And that's the whole video. There's no commentary from Ben Garrison. It's just he saw a woodpecker.
Well,
It's kinda weird, right?
in his mind, the woodpecker is labeled like deficit spending, and then the horse is like sensible voters.
The horse is a donkey and he's got big teeth because he's a Biden Democrat. And the woodpecker is like
And
Trump.
it's not doing anything about the woodpecker.
Yeah.
And it has a
And it
blue
should
mane, and both of its ears are pierced, and it has plastic glasses on.
Oh yeah, it's a hipster.
Woke culture is the
was
tree.
Woody supposed to be like a beatnik this whole time? Woody Woodpecker.
Yes. Now,
Yep.
Ben is a very interesting character. Has he gotten COVID before? Because if you're unfamiliar with his work, one of his main things is the vaccine usually is in the form of a needle in his cartoons, but being shot as a missile a lot of the times, or anti-vaccine sentiment. It runs rampant throughout his work. So you'd think he would have gotten on it already, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, he got it like 2 months ago, right?
Yeah. So presumably he's in the clear now, but oh no, it said it was severe. I'm just trying to figure out what beet juice is supposed to do.
My question is, how old is he? Is the first thing I got to know about this guy.
Mid-60s.
Right.
Prime crazy age for
The
old.
safest age to get it. That's the
Right.
thing.
And it's funny because my mom is now 70, and she loves to say, "Oh, you young people, you're not taking COVID seriously." Like, guess what? You people have ruined this world, and now you are denying that COVID is real. Not you
There
personally,
is,
but their
no
generation.
future for the world
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Remember the early days of the COVID pandemic when people thought it was only going to kill old people?
Uh-huh.
That was
That's
so
great.
sick. I
I
love that.
loved COVID back then.
Take
I
me
thought-
back.
Yeah.
Remember
Remember like
the term-
calling it the boomer remover?
Yeah. I randomly remembered that phrase the other day. It was so funny. It just made me chuckle to myself. Boomer remover. What a good one. It's going to kill old people.
Well, it is still by and large true. It just may also kill you and other young people you know, or just your parents, or
Well, I have, I can't tell if I have it or if I'm just suffering from the booster, but like everyone in New York has it right now. So we're not, what I'm getting at is I'm not laughing anymore because it's on some level, it's affecting my life. And I've been taken completely by surprise and not a cocky young, boomer person anymore. I think Omicron is here to stay.
So everyone in New York has COVID now?
And like
Everybody.
the other day, like in one day, everyone got it
Everybody.
at the same time. And I think that happened in England too. I was talking to one of the Trash Future people, and like one of them couldn't do the podcast we were doing because they were like, everyone in London or whatever the fuck has it.
So everyone just got in a big pile and was breathing into each other's mouths, and then this happened.
Well, SantaCon happened.
Shit.
It's like SantaCon happened, and then a bunch of fucking New Yorkers came back from Art Basel is like another thing that people are saying, like, you are the reason that it happened or whatever. Nobody can really pinpoint it, but I mean, like, New York has been partying. Like, I've been worried.
To be clear, those two things are, in case people are unfamiliar, equal and opposites. SantaCon is mostly like bros and broettes in Santa costumes getting drunk in the village, just all over Manhattan. And Art Basel is douchebags with mustaches looking at stupid paintings in Miami. And a bunch of people from New York go to that. So they meld together.
Total side tack. But I learned that recently. Did you know that SantaCon started off as like a situationist, like ad bustery type of thing? It was like an anti-capitalist flash mob started by this Cacophony Society.
Oh my God, really?
I know how far it's fallen. Like it's like cops now and shit.
Are you still going to the mall if I'm drunk as Santa? Makes you think. What's in my bag? A dash of truth?
I mean, that's still annoying, but different kind.
That whole era where that was like the big thing to do, flash mobs and like situational or situationist stuff. Like I remember that was really big around like 2008, 2000. It's the thing that sticks out to me is like I was reading some guide online about like suggestions for stuff you can do to mess with the system when I was like a senior in high school, and one of the suggestions was go to Walmart and fill up a shopping cart and then leave it.
Oh no, they don't have someone whose job is specifically to deal with this.
You're not just gonna be fucking with somebody who's like making sub minimum wage and not being given health insurance by Walmart. You're definitely going to be fighting the Walmart family.
The Walmarts. Jacob Walmart counting gold in his tub. You know what the funniest part about that is not even that annoying, because if you're working at Walmart, that's just like, yeah, okay, I have something to do for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's probably kind of nice.
I know where these aisles are.
Doesn't involve talking to people who are shopping at Walmart.
Well, speaking of something to do, let's talk about, see that? It's a pretty good segue, right?
That's really good, Jake.
So let's talk about Ben Garrison's origins, because I didn't really ever think about where this person came from. He's just kind of, but you were telling me he's, what is it? What's his deal?
So actually talking about like flash mobs and protests from the early or from like the late 2000s, I think is kind of as good of an entry point to talking about Ben Garrison as anything else, because
see what we did.
So Ben Garrison, he worked as a newspaper illustrator in the 70s and 80s, like right out of college or out of high school, started working for a small town newspaper in West Texas. Finished college, moved to San Antonio, was an illustrator there for a while, moved into doing infographics for a bit in the 90s, and then retired. And then around the 2008 financial collapse, he decided to come out of retirement as a cartoonist and get back into it to let everybody know about the evils of the Federal Reserve. So around the time that he was like first getting going as a cartoonist, like making the work that people like associate with him, was, you know, the period after the big crash in 2008, which was when, you know, like a lot, that was what was on the tip of everybody's tongue at the time. Like everybody was thinking constantly about like how fucked the American economy was. This was like the things that was leading into Occupy Wall Street, which also like had a big current of like right-wing libertarians suddenly coming in and saying like, this is because of the Federal Reserve. This is because we don't have the gold standard.
Right.
And Ben Garrison was on that tip.
Kind of tragic in a way, because the Fed is evil, right? Like,
Sure.
And you look back then, William Greider had been writing about the Fed for a long time. He was, progressive.
Are you talking about Kevin Federline? Is that who the Fed is?
To end the Fed.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now.
He was trying to introduce the bronze standard, which is
all of the cash had to be backed up by pennies. Just like
And you know he can back it up.
30
He's a professional dancer.
our entire $30 trillion economy. A lot of people don't know this because of Kevin Federline is all pennies. It's all stored under Montana, actually. It's just a sea of pennies with a bunch of Scrooge McDucks swimming in it. No, but it is.
The Abraham Lincoln Memorial's balls is where all the
That's all the nation's currency is there.
You can learn a lot from this podcast.
Right. But it is tragic in a way because, like, and people forget this, but Ron Paul teamed up with Bernie Sanders to audit the Fed in, I believe, 2009, 2010. Mm-hmm. And they found about all these trillions of dollars of zero interest loans that they just gave to McDonald's and all these just big corporations just to stabilize the economy. Easily could have gone to homeowners, public housing, infrastructure, all that shit. And that's, the Fed is only evil because of capitalism, right? It's symptomatic, but to a lot of people, because that was the biggest culprit, really, just doing just openly corrupt shit. That became the problem. The systemic issue is the Fed itself and central planning and central banking, and not the wider capitalist system.
And that's what, I guess, getting directly to a point that involves Ben Garrison and the larger movement of libertarian conservatism that was happening at the time because of Ron Paul. That's kind of essentially why I've always had really, really hated right-wing libertarians, is that a lot of them are people who are very well-intentioned and recognize real problems. There's a lot of stuff in Ben Garrison's book about how awful the police are and how or about the prison industrial complex, but his solutions to them are just gold and privatize everything.
Is he from 1875? These are very strange views to feel so passionately about in 2021.
Well, it's funny because that's literally where Ron Paul's platform and program would bring us, is to 1875, before the progressive era and the New Deal and stuff, which they just are in complete denial about. They're the country was fine.
We must
Old people did fine.
God.
To the Dust Bowl.
Old people were starving to death before Social Security and stuff, and they just they're just in complete denial about what the world was like. Not that it's great now, obviously, but
that goddamn liberal Teddy Roosevelt got in there and messed everything up for everybody.
I want to be the stuff that the Wizard of Oz is a metaphor for. That's where I want to be.
I just think a great way to typify it is last summer during the protests that were happening. I was talking to a relative of mine who is a libertarian, and I was talking to him about police brutality, and we were completely on the same page about a lot of stuff. And then he got to the solutions bracket, which was, we need to privatize the police and have competing private police forces, because then police will be accountable to their customers, which are presumably the American people, and not 3 or 4 private corporations.
That comes to the favorite thing that you can yell at police: "You work for us," which they love to hear. And if there were 2 competing ones, they would like to hear even more.
Yeah, they would stop and they would start being nice to us to try to get our dollar.
And never mind also that there's also massive historical precedent for private.
Yeah.
West Side Story. Ever heard of it?
When you're playing Red Dead Redemption and a Pinkerton shows up, it's always a good time, right? Usually they help with what you're doing.
Are there
Didn't Pinkerton shoot somebody last year?
Himself, right? Wasn't that it? And or he tased himself to death or something. I remember this because it was don't laugh at him. He died, even if it was in a very hilarious situation and was the worst possible person in the world.
I can't remember. So anyway,
yeah.
So out of this whole post financial crash, libertarian
post Ron Paul,
and the Fed sort of.
And it's funny because the video of Chris Cantwell's stand-up really reminds me of early Ben Garrison too, because he's talking about shit that I was certainly talking about as a, someone in my late teens, early 20s at that point, like drones and bailouts and stuff, but there was a creeping sort of reactionary tendency there. Then when did that get more accelerated, do you think, and sort of morph into nationalism?
That's something I've been trying to figure out, especially over the last couple of days. And I'm just double checking something right now. I want to make sure I'm remembering correctly. What was Ben Garrison's first comic? If it wasn't his first one, it was one of his first ones. Okay, the first one he drew when he came back was the big bat, or the big bad wolf from the Three Little Pigs story, blowing down the Federal Reserve, which has 3 evil pigs inside of it. So here we get both recurring motif from his comics of, wanting to audit the Fed, and also kind of seemingly misremembering an item that is essential to the metaphor that he's trying to build.
Yeah, because it's kind of cool to just spin it that way and go, the wolf is the hero and the pigs are fucking pigs, man. But that isn't how that's how the original story goes at all.
The thing about the pigs is they don't have permits for any of those houses. So when the wolf is going to knock them down, that's just private property being enforced.
That's right. The wolf is not like a government regulator. He's just a cool sovereign citizen who doesn't like what's going on with this new neighbor he has.
It's not quite as egregious as the one that he did a few years ago, where it was Donald Trump as Don Quixote. Where he's drawing him tilting at windmills, but the idea was that's a cool and good thing to do.
Yeah, well, because he's so strong.
Yeah.
And this does get back to one of the main. I think this crystallizes Ben's work in one small example. Is every time he draws Donald Trump is like a big, strong man.
He gets buffer every time,
which makes you wonder: does he have some kind of visual disability where he sees Donald Trump and sees a big, strong man, or is thinking if I draw him as a big, strong man, maybe he will become one by manifestation.
Well, it's kind of like Trump himself, because you remember in 2015 when he was campaigning against Rubio, he gave some speech and he was like, people are always talking about how good looking he is. I think I'm better looking than he is. And you couldn't really tell if he actually believed that. There's on some level, he has eyes. I don't know how well they work. I guess
maybe he did look better than him in 1960.
But there's a level of delusion there that I think his supporters slip into as well, where they actually think this is cool that he looks that way. And
he's the look of the summer is wearing a suit and sort of hunching over and having your underwear show through it around your huge ass.
He did have a huge ass when huge asses were the most in they've ever been. So that was maybe trickling down from his giant ass.
Well, maybe is he drawing him muscular because he has a background in superhero type drawing shit, or is it purely from his psychosexual Freudian hangups?
I have to assume it's the latter, because I've seen his earlier works. A recurring theme throughout the book also is that really ultimately this guy is a thwarted painter, kind of in the same way that
Chris Cantwell wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Historically,
deranged failed artists are good people.
Stefan Molyneux has a degree in theater and pursued theater until he was 25. Milo Yiannopoulos wrote 2 books of poetry before he started.
No, what?
Yeah.
We have to get one of those.
That absolutely tracks for me.
What I've really been trying to find is there were a few references in articles a few years ago about Richard Spencer to the fact that allegedly early in his life, when he was in college, he was, quote, involved in avant-garde theater.
Okay.
There's some world where Richard Spencer just wanted to make plays.
He's wanted to wear a black leotard and shit.
Yeah,
right.
And do interpretive dance in front of a plinth or something.
And he had one of those like rejection letters from like RISD or some prominent art school that was like, "Oh, we're sorry, Richard, we can't accept you." But then it like took a left turn and it was like, just due to race mixing, there's no room. I don't know what happened to this country.
I mean, like, that is so many of these people's origin story, and
Glenn Beck,
maybe just fun.
Oh, yeah.
So then these people will just hang out, you know, instead of devoting their entire life to revenge, supervillain style, against affirmative action and shit like that.
Well,
There's a crazy comedian who used to do like leprechaun shit. Like that was his shtick. Yeah, there's this guy who used to be like he was a comic in New York, and he kind of went viral because he was like Irish or whatever. And he did this viral video where he did Showtime on like the subway.
Okay.
On a boombox. It was like, it's Showtime. And then he did Riverdance, right? That's pretty funny.
Oh,
so that's something.
And he was always just this goofy, like, you know, clean comic. And he like did a whole why I left the left, I'm announcing I'm alt-right thing like a few months ago because he apparently got really far up the process of getting on a TV show, and then eventually they were like, we don't want any white guys. So he's a Batman villain, and he's like, wokeness is bad or whatever, and he's like literally like on it's Jim Brewer, Chrissy Mayer, and him are like the three vanguard of the anti-vax comedy people now, where they're like announcing like, I will not perform at any venue that vaccinates their janitors or whatever. Like, it's crazy.
He uses his river dance for racism now to spread evil.
It's so funny with like him and people like him and Jim Brewer. You're like, you're like, why are you evil now?
The bird impression
from
is
Half Baked.
Yeah, Goat Boy. But I mean, this is obviously like a myopic, like way broad stroke, and this isn't the entire solution. But just fund the arts, man, because so many of these people have the exact same fucking origin story.
I immediately thought that you were going to say you got canceled for doing hate crimes against the Irish by furthering the awful stereotypes of leprechauns.
Right. And that's something we don't talk about enough because the culture out there is really getting out of control. And it's one thing when we do it to Italians. I mean, they're barely human, but to go against the Irish...
That's something that Garrison's, I think, cartoons could benefit from, is a little bit of Irish stereotyping around the current president.
I want gold. He's a leprechaun. He loves gold.
It's because no one believes he's Irish because he's clearly a German man. Everything about him.
So what? The beginning.
Just at the very least, like draw him next to or hugging or kissing Jerry Adams, just one time. That would be sick. I really want to see it.
Sidebar, but there's a great video out there from like AP or something in the 90s where Jerry Adams is giving a speech in New York City, and he says, I'm lucky that I have my Trump card, and Trump is there and stands up and like waves.
Jerry!
he supported the IRA apparently.
The IRA in America is like not as like it's never itemized as like a conservative stick or whatever, because due to the nature of what factional disputes are, like lots of Republicans up the raw.
Yeah.
And so like you don't want to set them up.
You thought they were Republicans. You're a Republican, I'm a Republican.
We love it. We've got Armalites. Let's talk about the book. Did we talk about the book yet?
Oh man. So yeah, I just remembered something from his past that I think I saw this last night in the book, and it really clarified a lot of stuff. And I just need you to look at this picture, because I ran around my living room yelling for like a minute after I saw this. So open this picture, read the text.
Is his book like, is it a book or is it like a comic?
Oh, whoa. This is very Dance. This looks like Roz Chast.
Just
Fuck is
read
it?
read the caption. This is
Bean Boopers, in quotes, were cartoon characters I drew during my childhood.
Bean Boopers.
Bean Boopers.
Bean
Bean
boopers.
Boopers.
Now I would
He's
not
got
have
several panels of a little ball guy, little Pac-Man type figure.
It's a bean. They're bean boopers.
Oh, right. Okay, so there's a bean.
Can you not read? These are bean boopers.
I guess I need a special sort of type of literacy to understand the early Garrison. These are actually pretty good for a kid.
Let me
Yeah,
ask you a question, Rory, because this is kind of
I love these.
what's
I love
haunting
Bean
you about it.
Boopers.
They're kind of great. As like an illustrator, he's got some skills, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He absolutely does. One thing that I think it is kind of indisputable about Garrison is he does have some ability as an illustrator. He has very confusing ideas about what should or shouldn't be in an illustration. He constantly overloads images with too much stuff, too many different little details that don't really amount to anything, confused symbolism, over labeling, which is I think the thing that most people associate with him the most. But he is definitely somebody who can draw. I mean, on a technical level, he's better at drawing than I am.
His cartoons
I think-
bring me delight every week, which I
Yeah,
do think is
'cause-
weird because we are not his target audience, and yet I feel like the irony left online likes his shit more than the right does, as far as I could tell.
Yeah,
Well-
it's like boomers that like him, though, not the young right.
But
Right?
so this leads us into another interesting topic of discussion with Mr. BG, and that is, I think this may have been around 10 years ago when we're talking about the Ron Paul Fed stuff, but of course, I'm sure many listeners of the show are familiar with people from our political milieu doing edits to Mr. Garrison's cartoons where we pluck out the stuff that makes us look cool, leftists look cool. But there were Nazis making edits, and I believe they still do this to his cartoons to make them more reactionary and
Yeah.
So what happened here?
Yeah.
He
Okay.
turned into the alt-right, right?
So that was the big thing that I wanted to bring up, which is so the first image that I really remember seeing of his, which I think is important to mention the context of this being around when the Federal Reserve was, or everything was in crisis in the economy, Occupy was happening. Ben Garrison drew a picture based off of something he heard on InfoWars that was a pyramid head walking walking in the clouds, and underneath the clouds there were two legs kicking people, and one said Democrats and the other one said Republicans, and said left, right, and the guy getting kicked by the Democrat leg is yelling, "Ow, next time I'll vote Republican," and the one being kicked by the Republican leg is yelling, "Ow, next time I'll vote Democrat."
genius.
Eye-opening.
So I used to see that pasted on stuff. I saw people at protests a decade ago holding signs with that image on it. And then somebody on 4chan decided to take that image and replace the pyramid all-seeing eye thing, because one thing that is incontrovertibly true about Ben Garrison is he does definitely believe in the New World Order as laid out by people like Alex Jones, which debatably has, not debatably, pretty concretely has roots in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, even though people like Jones will say he's not anti-Semitic. His version of it is filtered through a bunch of stuff. A lot of it invariably has to be traced back to stuff like that was explicitly anti-Semitic. So somebody took this picture that Garrison drew of a walking or all-seeing eye pyramid and replaced the image of the all-seeing eye with a drawing that is popularly known as the Happy Merchant. If you've never seen that drawing, anybody listening, I mean, you almost certainly have seen that drawing, but if you somehow haven't, it's a very stereotypical looking drawing of a Jewish man with a big hooked nose rubbing his fingers together excitedly.
Right. You probably made the hand motion when you saw like the pot pie was coming out the oven.
Yeah, he's a guy that, like, at the very least looks very excited about a big pot pie that he has coming to him.
Yeah, it's a much more offensive version of that meme of that black guy in the woods.
Yeah.
Do whatever.
Oh yeah, that guy.
That guy's cool. Happy Merchant, not a good cartoon.
So that was a drawing by a semi-anonymous cartoonist named A. Wyatt Mann, who was active in the 80s and 90s and is responsible for most of the hate art online in some capacity or another. Like,
wait, the merchant thing?
Yeah, that's
really. I thought that was like from 100 years ago or something, but that's 80. Okay, wow.
That's an A. Wyatt Mann drawing. A. Wyatt Mann also.
It was very hard to make it in this business as a white man in the 80s and 90s.
That's why, yeah.
He may or may not, and by may or may not be, I mean almost certainly is a cartoonist named Nick Bogus or Bugus. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Who was a like underground alt cartoonist guy around the same time. But like if you look at like his mainstream stuff and the A. Wyatt Mann stuff, it's pretty undeniable that like their artwork looks the same. But at the same time, it's never been confirmed that Bogus was A. Wyatt Mann, so I don't think I can legally say definitively that it was.
That was on purpose. His nom de plume was
A. Wyatt Mann.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So people put the Happy Merchant into this Ben Garrison drawing, and that goes around on 4chan, places like that. It's funny. I remember at the time seeing that particular edit of it, and my understanding of it at the time was just, I mean, yeah, it sucked, but like this was the internet in 2010 where everybody was super edgy all the time. My understanding of it at that point in time, the first time that I saw it, was just that this was a concerted effort to fuck with a right-wing crank by trying to make his shit look worse.
Yeah.
So you thought it was potentially people who were on the left doing it to reveal his...
I don't even think it was specifically political in one direction as much as that this was the period of time where like people kind of liked 4chan.
Yeah.
Like
it was like hip and edgy. If you knew about it, it was kind of cool.
It was hip and edgy. People people like were saying the word hacktivism like it was a cool and exciting thing. Like this was around when they were harassing or protesting Scientology. I don't want to say harassing because I mean, fuck the Church of Scientology.
They deserved it, yeah. In that case,
but I mean, like it when it comes to doing stuff like hacking their printers and making it print out reams and reams of solid black paper until they run out of toner, worth it or not, it's harassment.
You'd say like before the alt-right stuff really coagulated and turned into what it is, the chaotic troll stuff on the internet was like you might have considered it to be like neutral or like it was a big playing field and everybody was kind of like question mark, where's this going to go? This could be for good, bad, cool,
right,
kind of cool.
Because now we think of sort of that era with the anonymous masks and, talking about the Federal Reserve and WikiLeaks, which came on the scene around that time too, or got more notoriety. We think of that as, proto right-wing stuff, and they all went into the alt-right. But around that time was Steubenville in Ohio, where a young woman was raped, and anonymous people and hacktivists got exposed that and made it an issue and helped bring people to quote unquote justice, which is so it didn't necessarily have to. I mean, I would say it's probably at this point mostly gone in a reactionary direction, but as you're saying, it was the playing field was a little wider. There were some people who consider themselves apolitical and some people just on the bona fide left.
Yeah, there was a point in time where like it seemed like the point was just to be annoying. It wasn't really about politics. It was just people trying to like mess with people. But that ended up being a great way for online far right people to find an in and start to massage the conversation towards not being ironically anti-Semitic and pro-fascist, but genuinely being anti-Semitic and pro-fascist. And the Ben Garrison edits continued, and they continued, and they continued. And year after year, more, and it got to a point where, according to him at least, every single one of his comics was being edited to have anti-Semitic or other kinds of racist images in them. They started giving him nicknames like Zyklon Ben.
I'm sorry, that was good.
Or let's see. No, I was looking at his Encyclopedia Dramatica page. If you remember that one. If you're not familiar, that was kind of the 4chan wiki. It was a wiki that they maintained that just had a catalog of all of their trolls and like everybody that they were harassing and anybody that they thought was a lol cow. Has everybody like that has an article on Encyclopedia Dramatica, which if you haven't gone there, it's a pretty terrible website. For the longest time, anytime I would visit that website, the first thing I would see was an animated GIF of a CGI Bowser fucking Princess Peach.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Which is, it depends on the consent.
So we've got known aliases of Ben Garrison. These are things that they were calling him. Zyklon Ben Garrison. Ben, the one-man clan Garrison. Ben, the walking Holocaust Garrison.
Ooh.
And these were Nazis?
Ben,
or
the
just...
beast.
These are his friends.
Just trolls, right? Just at the beginning,
Yeah.
Okay.
people just, the joke was, let's make this guy look like a Nazi.
Okay.
Yeah. But Ben got...
This cartoonist is like the Holocaust, they were saying.
Yeah. So Ben found out about this because people were starting to genuinely associate him with this. Like, he had a show at an art gallery that got canceled because people were complaining that this guy who was a neo-Nazi terrorist had his art on display at this art gallery. So Ben tried to form a legal defense against it, which didn't really work. Is like he could not find a lawyer who was willing to take his case. So like there was a period of time where like he was going into 4chan pretending to be other people and like trying to defend himself. It's detailed somewhere in the book. There's apparently one day where like his wife went into Pole and just tried to take over Pole as like a 60-year-old woman, just tried to take over the politically incorrect channel of 4chan, which, if you're not aware, is where all the Nazis are.
Wait, he put all this in his own book?
Yes. Oh, no. If you want to know the worst thing that he put in his book, at some point, let me see if I can find this because I definitely screenshotted this paragraph.
You kind of like distracted me with Ben Garrison art gallery, which I would pay $1 million to go to
we
that.
can talk about his art in a second, but just speaking of things that shouldn't be in the book, at some point he's talking about cyberbullies and he says, they hurl epithets such as racist, slut, and then he lists all of the slurs.
They're calling him a slut?
He wrote, in his attempt to prove that he's not a racist, he wrote out the N-word and a bunch of other stuff, which definitely could be taken out of context and just quoted. The phrase gas the anti-Semitic slur race war now appears in his book 3 times in quotation marks as an example of what not to say.
Thanks.
Just so he's clear.
Yeah. Just so he's clear and that he does not support this stuff, he decided to put all of it in the book.
That's so.
And it's so weird because he said, I think this was on his blog. He's like, to be clear, I'm opposed to the international banking system, not NOT in all caps, Jews. Which is, I guess, me too. But when you say the international banking system, it just sounds a little weird and like
It seems like you're saying the exact phrase people use as that dog whistle in that cartoon you don't want to be associated with anymore.
right.
Mhm.
And that's it goes back to the libertarian thing. If it was a national banking system, would that be if it was just domestic banks?
I
Would that be
can't tell
better?
if
Not by much.
it sounds like from the story you're telling us from the book that I'm sure he doesn't like that Nazis were sharing his stuff and using it to share pro-Holocaust memes, but it seems like he's more just like financially disturbed by them.
Yeah.
And that they tank his career and then he has to like do something about it.
Yeah, which is really what gets into the thing that I think is the most interesting about him. So at some point he goes into 8chan and like does an AMA on 8chan. The one like lasting thing from which, let me see if I can find this real quick, because this is another thing that like I think is worth seeing.
You know what I just realized while you're looking for that?
There it is.
Local politics in DC have been following a little bit, and I really do want to see Ben Garrison do a mock-up of our local political situation because our mayor is named Bowser. And I really actually do want to see a Ben Garrison cartoon of Mayor Bowser as Bowser.
Bucking
Right.
Princess Peach, who is in this situation.
The deficit.
So this is the thing that comes out of that.
Whoa.
That is a drawing. Yeah, this is. Oh, do you want to say it?
Yeah, it's my fucking homie, Frederick Brennan.
On fire.
On fire.
Oh, no.
Who's Frederick Brennan?
He, if you've seen the QAnon documentary series on HBO, he's someone who moderated. He created 8chan.
He founded 8chan. He created it.
And created it. Got mixed up with the Watkins family, who are actually Q, and sort of like emerged from the documentary in real time as this person who came to reject all of that stuff, and he's pretty cool. He's just on Twitter.
Yeah. There's a great, really tense section in the documentary where he's escaping from the Philippines. Like the documentary filmmaker like drops his impartiality to help Frederick escape.
Yeah.
Being like living inside of the Watkins compound, right? Like he was essentially
basically.
like just their slave at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, this doesn't totally. I mean, did he do this intentionally? I know there's okay. So he did this publicly because this doesn't totally look like a regular Ben Garrison drawing.
He actually sold this as a mug and did a profit split with Frederick Brennan.
Wait,
really?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
This is them coming to a kind of peace.
Okay.
Him drawing him on fire.
Yeah, it's just Fred's head, and his wheelchair
in a flaming wheelchair.
Yeah, his head is intact entirely, and he doesn't seem to be at all malcontent.
He looks really cool with it. He seems very
like
happy.
Most Ben Garrison cartoons, I do not totally get what he is trying to say from the flaming wheelchair, but I just am hungry for more.
Yeah, there's a striking absence of captions on this one.
What's the story with this one? How did this happen? Why did it happen?
He did an AMA on 8chan.
Garrison
Garrison did an AMA on 8chan where he ended up talking to some of these people and like finding out that some of them genuinely and unironically liked him, which coincided with approximately in time coincided with the emergence of Donald Trump on the political scene. This was happening in 2000. This was all leading up to 2015.
Okay.
Initially, he was a big Rand Paul supporter because he'd been a huge Ron Paul supporter in both 2008 and 2012. And then Rand Paul dropped out because there were like 20 people running in 2016, and Ben Garrison got on the Trump train and suddenly started to get a lot more traction with his work.
Suddenly
he was getting commissions from people like Mike Cernovich or Stefan Molyneux or Milo Yiannopoulos, people like that, were suddenly because he'd become this right-wing meme, he started to be genuinely embraced by those people and went whole hog on Donald Trump.
Okay, so that's how we sort of got to the current phase of Ben Garrison. He's making all his money off of the Trump stuff.
Yeah, he has, like a lot of libertarians, kind of reached the end point where they realize the only way that they can protect their idea of freedom is to harass other people,
right,
and try to make other people miserable.
And to completely stop caring about like any of the good things about libertarianism, the foreign policy, which,
yeah,
unless I'm mistaken, I don't think Ben Garrison has written much or done any cartoons about Trump's terrible jingoism and, you know, military adventurism.
Stopping the penny. When was the last time he's talked about the penny?
Ben does present himself as being an anti-interventionist a lot. And one thing that it's really interesting to me, the fact that like some people, like I've talked to Trump supporters who consider him to be this like, or to have been like this great peacetime president because of the fact that he started replacing our troops with private military contractors.
Hey,
that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Which I guess is the same sort of thing as how privatizing the police would make them better.
Right.
The problem is not that we're sending people off to do these horrible things. It's that they're not private contractors.
Yeah.
They're not competing in the market.
It's funny because they like to demonize like Rumsfeld and the Bush neocons as being these, you know, terrible globalists or whatever. But that was literally Rumsfeld's like political agenda for his entire career, was privatizing the U.S. military. Like that's that big speech that people talk about on the day before 9/11, where he's like, we got to cut the budget, the Pentagon budget. Your ears perk up, but then you realize what he wants to do with that is just outsource it to Blackwater, which basically ended up happening.
Yeah, people's brains are completely just candy at this point. It's insane, the leaps of logic they try to make to differentiate themselves from like regular Republicans who want to do pretty much the same shit. Doesn't make any fucking sense.
I just remembered the like big crux of this. The thing that I think is like that I mentioned to you in Florida, and I think is like most emblematic of the shift in Ben Garrison's work. At some point, so I'm sure everybody listening is familiar to some degree with Pepe the Frog. If you're not somehow, Pepe the Frog is a drawing of a frog that a cartoonist named Matt Fury drew, who is fond of peeing with his pants down. And that turned into a meme, and then that turned into a thing that Hillary Clinton identified as being like a symbol of the far right, which led in turn to Matt Fury disowning Pepe the Frog and killing him off in a comic strip. At which point, Ben Garrison drew a picture of Pepe the Frog wearing a tuxedo. I'm going to bring this up so you can see it because I don't remember the text on it. This is the single image that I think typifies the change that has happened to Ben Garrison in the past 6 years. Right here, we've got Pepe the Frog wearing a tuxedo, strolling happily, wearing a top hat that has a little 4-chain clover on it, and Matt Fury is chasing after him, screaming, But I killed you. And Pepe the Frog is glaring at him and saying, who the hell are you?
Right. And he's on his money shit, though, in this one. Because he's got a cane with a diamond on it, and he's a very wealthy frog.
Oh, shit. He looks like the WB frog.
He's got a 4-leaf clover in his top hat. This is Irish dog whistling.
That's true.
Pro-Irish? Not really sure.
Not all Irish people are a rich frog. It's a ruthless stereotype.
Frogs were French in
Mouse.
Mouse? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Into that the other day. Apparently the Romani people were moths.
I forgot about this cartoon.
Yeah.
So
what do you think of Mouse, Rory? Sorry to completely go off on a tangent.
I read it when I was 12, and it really upset me, and I have not read it since.
So
I read it a few years ago. I thought it was sick.
it's pretty good, but
so dope.
I wanted to remind myself which animals were represented which ethnicities. And there's a wiki fur page that delineates all of them. Which means that there are furries out there who are dressing up as mouse characters and having sex.
You want to do some really dark cosplay this year at Dragon Con, go to that website.
Yeah, a guy at the furry convention who's like, I'm a cat, but there's actually a whole other meaning.
Oh, that's messed.
Whoa.
Art
What are you looking at
Spiegelman.
now?
Do you know him at all?
Yeah.
He did Mouse. He seems pretty cool.
I just typed in mouse furry and I got this drawing someone on Reddit did about how they had a sexual awakening reading Mouse.
I don't think that's the intention, Rory. I mean,
whatever will be.
It's not
will
the
be.
focus of the book.
If you're awakened one way or the other, that's a positive in my book.
Yeah, man, cool. Oh my god, this is so disturbing though.
Yeah, this sucks.
Damn.
Word sexy Holocaust ? And then the mouse is going, ooh, Vladek. Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah. I realized I was bisexual reading Number the Stars.
Anyway, sorry to totally throw us off track there.
Yeah, no.
I just had to get that out because I've
great.
tried doing that on stage and people don't appreciate it, so I had to say it on the podcast.
I appreciate it.
Hypothetically, if we were rounding out here, where should we go next?
Well,
okay. So
at this point, and then I had one more question, and I think we'll be done.
Yeah. So the reason why I bring up this image that Ben Garrison drew of Pepe rejecting Matt Fury is that this is kind of ultimately like the biggest emblem of who Ben Garrison is. So Matt Fury was somebody who also, like Ben Garrison, had his work edited to in a way that made it synonymous with online hate. Fury fought back a lot harder than Garrison did and eventually decided to reject his work. And Garrison ultimately embraced the thing that he was, or the antagonism, and is celebrating somebody else losing control of their work the same way that he did.
Oh, that is pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, that's not as fucked up as the thing that I realized last night, which is Ben Garrison has been drawing Pro Q comics recently.
Sure.
So a big chunk of his book is just talking about like the evil lies of 4chan and how it's a place that propagates misinformation. He should know that shit that gets posted on that website is bullshit. And he has fallen into something else that is entirely bullshit propagated by that website.
Right, because they did it to him. Also, he was friends with Frederick Brennan, but now is Q-pilled.
Yeah.
That's weird. That makes me... So how much of it is genuine? Because is it possible that maybe he got COVID and is not taking ivermectin and beet juice and all this shit he says he's doing, and he's actually vaccinated and knows his grift? Or is he completely just oatmeal brained?
That is completely unknowable. That's something that I was also thinking about last night that I bothered by now. There's no answer to it. I could say right now on the podcast that I have COVID. I could tweet that out right now, say I have COVID, and then in like 4 days say I've been drinking my own piss all week. My COVID went away.
Right.
You can't disprove that.
You can't disprove that.
You can't disprove that. Like at this point, anybody who like says publicly that they have COVID and that they take some sort of miracle cure and it goes away has as much chance of like they got better incidentally, or maybe like I'm sure there's somebody out there who has pretended to have COVID for some weird ideological reason.
Yeah. We'll be selling Rory's piss as COVID cure on our website.
I have so much of it.
Yeah. To be clear, he's not saying drink your own piss. He's saying drink Rory's piss.
Just mine.
Right. That wouldn't make any sense. Everyone's piss is COVID cure? No.
That's not what we're saying.
I want to ask,
and it's not what we're selling.
it's Christmas, just in time for the holidays. Cure the Omicron virus by okay. So rounding out here though, I guess what I wanted to ask you to really kind of get like some kind of scope on who this person is, because I mean, like, I was looking at his YouTube and I was seeing these weird videos that his wife is taking of this kind of friendly looking old man living in Montana who has hobbies and stuff, and it was like, this guy, if you saw him in a grocery store, you would never suspect he has this dark 8chan secret life going on. And that's just like what's going on with so many people, so many old people. It's much weirder, but like people in general, you know, kind of have this split mind now. And to me, it seems like the story here is like your grandpa doesn't quite know how volatile his weird little online hobby is because he doesn't understand the internet that well or whatever. And this so clearly grew out of and was incentivized by, the fact that he just started making money once the Trump thing took off or whatever. So what I'm curious about is his other art. Cause like, I've heard he's also just a painter, and like, what does that tell us about him? You know,
have you seen his paintings?
I think I remember seeing him at one point, and they were like,
I'm throwing one in right now because this is his real passion.
Yeah.
Ben Garrison does kitschy, kind of low cubist paintings of cowboys. And when I say low cubist, I mean he's no Duchamp, he's no Picasso. The images are maybe a little bit too legible. It kind of looks like he drew a normal picture and then put cubes inside of it.
Yeah, this is derivative for sure.
But this is what he wants to do.
Yeah, this could be in like your city's little like welcome center kind of shit.
This could be in any hotel room in America. This could be in your uncle's rumpus room.
I think it should have to be in every hotel room in America, like the Bible.
I would probably buy a print of one of these, if not for the fact that I don't want to give Ben Garrison money.
This is actually a really, I think, compelling image because it's done in this, as you said, cubist sort of form with, it was like Picasso and shit, where he's making paintings about war and just awful things.
Yeah, it looks
but
like
this is literally just a guy fishing. It's just a mundane Americana image.
Yeah, there's no subtext. It's not subversive in any way. It's taking the form of a kind of avant-garde art form, or what was at one point an avant-garde art form, and making the most mundane flea market artwork with it, which I think is like very charming in a really kitschy way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not art with a capital A because it's not saying anything, but it's like exactly what you do if you're a kind of a normal person who takes like art classes and learns the technique. And then
I actually really want to see the inverse of this. I was thinking about this today. What if somebody did like Norman Rockwell style, like formal style paintings, but about like the other side of the 50s, like civil rights demonstrations getting broken up and like McCarthyite raids happening in the village and shit.
Rockwell did a couple paintings like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's one, Rockwell Southern Justice. This is a fucking terrifying painting. Get ready to see Dark Norman Rockwell.
Norman Darkweb. Norman Darkweb.
Norman Darkweb.
God damn it. It's not going. There it is. Somehow I got the lowest resolution possible copy of it.
Oh, wow. This is actually really good. This is amazing. So it's that's a white guy holding a black guy?
That is a painting of a, so there's a dead guy on the ground. This is two, I'm trying to remember the story exactly, but it was like a couple of white civil rights activists, one of which has been killed by people in the area. And there's a black man with blood on him hugging the remaining one. And it's a
this is
really
actually an early
distressing
draft.
picture.
Yeah.
because the white man is labeled the deficit later, and he's kind of saving America, who is the dead man.
And this is kind of reminds me of, speaking of the Holocaust, Schindler's List, where it's black and white except for that one image of a girl in a red dress. There's a spot of blood on the guy kneeling's shoulder, but other than that, it's black and white. The painting.
Or let's see. There's also the rock. We all face, I believe is the name of it. The problem we all live with, which I am trying to send right now. This is, I think, a bit more legible as to what the intentions are.
This was with us all along. I guess I shouldn't have assumed.
Don't read out loud the word in the background.
Okay.
What word is it?
Pennies?
It's a drawing, or it's a painting of a young African-American girl being escorted by U.S. Marshals to her first day of integrated school.
This is a Rockwell?
Yeah.
I've seen this. I did not realize it was a Rockwell. Wow. This guy, okay.
Behind her is one of the slurs people often say to Ben Garrison.
Behind her is one of the slurs that Ben Garrison put in his book as a word not to say.
Yeah, I've seen this. I feel like they dragged this out during like Hillary Clinton's campaign or something. Insane like that. Like, this is her.
Ben Garrison does a like changes it, except it's Hillary Clinton as a little girl. I wouldn't do that. I guess it would be Sarah Palin.
Ben Garrison. I'm sure at some point he's done a Norman Rockwell homage, but I can't find it.
That's interesting. So Norman Rockwell is unfairly maligned as a sort of a revanchist conservative aesthetician, but he's actually had a different.
Yeah, I mean, most of his stuff was like pretty glib, but generally pretty funny, like magazine illustrations. But like he did have some substance to his work. There were some problems with him that I don't remember off the top of my head, though. But like he was allegedly still like a kind of weird guy, but not just wholly superficial. But yeah, so that's the thing that also became very clear reading Garrison's book, is that like he is really ultimately a thwarted painter. He's somebody who, like, throughout his description of his early career, every newspaper he worked at, he talks constantly about how somebody else was on the staff there who was a way better illustrator than him, or way better at something than he was, had a clearer message, a clearer, more concise message. He really just wants to paint these cowboys playing poker in a vaguely cubist way.
Interesting.
And everything else has just kind of come out of that, not being able to do the basic thing that he wants to do.
Yeah,
you've only succeeded in making me like Ben Garrison more in the last hour, by the way.
Well, I mean, okay, that's a nice way we can end it. Let's go back around. How do you feel about Ben Garrison now that you've learned where his monsters come from?
Like the fact he just wants to do like cubist cowboys for hotels, but instead is like pressed into the culture war for cash.
Right.
Yeah, all this shit should not be happening. Perfect illustration of like what would like.
Hey, illustration.
Oh.
Hey, illustration.
He in a better world, he would just be making his little paintings, and none of this crazy, socially ill shit would be happening. That is
right. It's like a way less damaging version of George Bush.
Yeah, that's so that's I'm not sure if I like him or not, because I obviously don't like him, but I honestly, because everything adds up on paper that he would be doing this as out of purely cynical reasons. But I just don't know if a boomer in his 60s is capable of using the internet for that. You know? Like, I feel like he would have to be really committed to the grift, because he makes his YouTube videos where he's saying the same stuff, and I'm not sure.
He's got NFTs, which are selling terribly. The most one of them has gone for is $300.
Is that low? Or
Yeah,
high?
that's
low.
I mean, that's what most people making NFTs make at most is like $300. Most of the big transactions are money laundering.
Oh, that makes sense.
But he's not doing great. He's tried to get in on the NFT train, and it's not really working out for him.
His ones of the Donald, right?
Yeah, they're just pictures of buff Trump, right?
Yeah, he's doing the same sort of thing as like the Bored Apes, or I think there's also the Fat Apes now, or the Evolved Apes. Really, NFTs are mostly drawings of apes that
They're mostly
look unhappy. But he has entered into that fray with pictures of Donald Trump in front of various backgrounds, giving a thumbs up. And sometimes he has sunglasses. That's about where he capped out on aesthetic accessories for Donald Trump. It's just sometimes he has sunglasses on.
Take my money. Well, if he was really going to do the NFT thing, it should be like Donald Trump. And then in one of them, he has like face tattoos. And then in the next one, he's wearing a scuba snorkel mask. And
he's smoking a joint and eating a hamburger at the same time.
Yeah.
He's got a little fez on. He's a biker now.
Eventually, he'll master the form the same way he mastered cubism. Like he'll figure out the style, and then he'll start making them, and then we'll be.
Yeah.
As dialecticians, it's easy for us to see that the clear synthesis here is Trump, but taken to the commercially popular art style of the Minions. Give him all of the different Minions looks, and then you make all that Minions money.
I could Photoshop him onto a Minion real quick.
Rory's,
I'll do that.
Rory's eyes getting big dollar signs on it quietly in the Zoom.
Oh, you're gonna make so many bitcoins.
You're gonna destroy the rainforest, bro. You're gonna make real sad apes.
We should probably wind down here in a second. Is there any other big Ben Garrison news that we need to know about, or have we thoroughly explored the haunted house that is his brain?
One of the things that he spends a lot of time on in the book is talking about a troll that he has, whose name is Buttnut. I can't find much of a record of Buttnut being a real person, but Ben Garrison, this is a direct quote, wants you to do a Google search on Buttnut troll.
Okay, I'm sure that'll get exactly what he's aiming for. One thing.
Boobs.
Maybe that's him, because he does fake accounts sometimes. But one funny thing I learned is apparently he's like sort of a friend, colleague. He considers himself of Milo Yiannopoulos and a couple other trolls, but he doesn't like that Milo talks too much about being gay.
Yes.
That annoys him. The flaming stuff, he calls it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the wheelchair was about.
Oh, also a recurring theme in his book, which I think is also like very important to the larger conversation about libertarianism and libertarian values. The thing that inspired him to get back into politics more than anything else was he got a traffic ticket. He keeps mentioning throughout the book, like, the U.S. government can steal money from you for driving a car. He's very concerned, as with a surprisingly large number of libertarians, he is someone who is disproportionately concerned with not wanting to get traffic tickets.
That's funny because, I feel like this happens to everybody. Once you get a traffic ticket, there's at least a 2-minute. I mean, I remember once when I was like 18, I got a ticket for parking too close to the curb. And I was furious for like 2 minutes. And it's like, that shouldn't be a rule. I'm going to call my city council person. And then I just thought about it for another 3 minutes. It was like, actually, that does make sense. And I should pay this. But for a libertarian, I guess that what makes somebody a libertarian is that initial 2-minute spurt doesn't turn off.
There's a lot of libertarians that are like pocket constitution guys who will tell you, if you ever get pulled over by a cop, reach in your pocket, maybe reach in the glove box, reach into a dark part of your car and pull out this Constitution. And then you can tell the cop that in the Constitution, it says yada, yada, and you'll get off. And it's like, what they're not getting at is that like they're white and no one else can. Let me quickly reach for this pocket Constitution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely do that.
Yeah, and if you're a libertarian, the Constitution is on your gun. You have it like printed onto a gun that you carry around as well.
Pointed at the cop, and you're like, read the front of the on there. Yeah.
But yeah, that's also like a big element of sovereign citizens as a group. They believe that the U.S. Constitution is ultimately about protecting their right to travel between states as a independent motor vehicle, which they are. And that it becomes like the totality of their worldview, the same way that, like, I guess the Time Cube guy like got into Time Cube because I think he realized like it's tomorrow in Japan and that was too much for him to deal with, so he had to like make up this entire heuristic to explain this one thing, that there are different time zones, where instead the time is a cube. So instead of like just thinking like maybe road rules exist for a reason, you have to come up with this entire totalizing idea of what tyranny is based around the fact that somebody told you to slow down once.
Picture you just shared of Hitler on a laptop with the swastika coming out of his mouth. That's from the book.
Yes.
It says many young people seem to think Hitler is, in quotes, cool, and they help spread the hateful Nazi nonsense throughout the internet. And then, like, this is a good example of him, I guess, thinking that he's warning us of the online Nazis that he's been subjected to, but he just put a swastika in his book.
Well, it's funny because, and I wonder how consistent he is with this, because a lot of conservatives will make the Dinesh D'Souza argument that Hitler was a leftist and Nazis are actually socialists. So maybe he sees us as somehow equivalent to them.
He doesn't touch on that in the book, but I'm almost certain that he believes that.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, there's delightful pictures throughout the book about explaining how trolls work and the awfuls of people on the internet, including this infographic about how you got a fire guy who's drinking gasoline, and the fire guy is labeled hate, and the gasoline is labeled online anonymity.
Oh, so true.
We need to stop filling our cars with online anonymity.
But remember, there's this last one. Here's a drawing that he did of a purple cartoon devil breathing out the word hate into a laptop that says kill cyberbullying racism. Because Ben Garrison wants you to know you can help stop trolling on social media by hitting the report button.
Oh, it looks like Murray. Looks like my cat.
That's
Landing close to home.
Oh, what's he up to online? Oh, I'm gonna report Murray.
Oh no.
Oh man. All right. Well, I do have to report Murray, so we're probably gonna get out of here. But if you are a fan of our show and you like cool t-shirts and art and cool stuff like that, you should totally sign up for Rory's Patreon. I can't recommend it enough. I'm a patron. I get t-shirts off of it that say cool, weird shit and have pictures of scary raccoons and stuff on them, and stickers and zines and all sorts of shit. You got anything else to plug?
I mean, you just did my big plug for me. So yeah, my name's Rory Blank. I have a Patreon. I send out zines every month that have art or short story comics in them. A couple months ago, I did a body horror comic entirely in the form of new tech company art. This art style called Corporate Memphis, which you've probably seen, which is where like everybody has big, blocky, blobby bodies. There are almost no hard lines. You get big motivational text words everywhere. And I drew a comic that looks like that, but is scary, maybe? I don't know. So if you want to check that stuff out, that's at patreon.com/Rory Blank. I'm on Instagram at Rory Blank. I'm on Twitter at Bone Jail, because somebody else had the name Rory Blank at some point in time and then it got banned, so I cannot have my own name.
That'll happen. Ben Garrison took it.
But your name is an NFT now.
Other than that, Watched a movie called Copland the other day. That was an interesting film.
Still on?
Yeah.
Movie of the week.
Yeah,
Copland.
check out Copland. It's kind of jarring. It's a movie about a New Jersey suburb full of New York cops where there's one sheriff who is just a incompetent, bullied Sylvester Stallone who can't corral the cops that run the town that he lives in.
Awesome. All right. Anybody else? Plug.
Yes. At Andersley here on Twitter, Dursley on Instagram, and we're speaking about the need to support artists so they do not turn into authoritarian strongmen. And one way you can do that, on sort of a serious note, there is a playwright who, and I don't say this about many playwrights or theater people, but truly an amazing writer, Dominic Orlando, who is based in Minneapolis, who passed away recently. And there's a memorial fund to support to support younger playwrights and to give them, the ability to produce their work, which I think is really important, somewhat for the reason we just mentioned. But you can do that at the Dominic Orlando Fund at pwcenter.org, Playwright Center. We'll link to that in the show notes.
Right. And as long as we're doing mutual aid, there is a carpenter in Bethlehem by the name of Joseph, whose son was recently crucified by the Romans. So we're all getting together, everyone, next Saturday, and we're just going to celebrate his life, and we're going to give each other gifts and take a tree outside, bring it inside. That's kind of what we do to show our support. And whatever you can do helps. So we're calling it Christmas, and it's Christmas with a C. And that's all for me this week.
Okay, Xmas, and it's an anarchist thing. Yeah, meet up in JC Square, which is where this guy was murdered by the Romans unfairly. We're gonna have a vigil.
Right, the square is fucked up.
Yeah, it's an autonomous zone right now.
They really had it out with him for like 20 hours. He fell 3 times. 3 times. There's a mural of it.
Thrice. Yeah. That's what they call it.
They call it thrice.
Thrice. Yeah. We're yell whose streets, our streets, at a bunch of
Centurions.
A bunch of speaking of donating. Donating to artists so they don't turn into Nazis. Our Patreon is the way you can support us. We
will turn to the right. We will cash in.
Really interesting.
I'm doing it right now.
Alternative points of view on various forums that we're members of. But you know what? Maybe if we have a show to do, we won't. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Is this a threat? I couldn't say. Could I? Couldn't say. I don't know. Too abstract. I have a show I'm starting in January if Omicron doesn't end comedy. I have a couple of sets. It'll be in my pinned tweet. Maybe the rest of the year. Might cancel them. But I'm starting a show in Brooklyn at the Gutter on January 18th at 9 o'clock. It's for my birthday. I'm going to have a bunch of friends do stand-up. Alex is one of them. And we're going to hang out and maybe bowl if Omicron doesn't kill us all, and also if the universe is still intact in 4 or 5 months, something like that. I'm going on tour with the band Eve 6, who you might remember from being on this podcast, Max Collins, and We Are the Union, really cool ska band. So we're coming to everywhere. I haven't announced the dates yet, but it's a nationwide tour, so we're likely coming to where you live. If God does not hate us and take the money out of my mouth and turn me into a filthy libertarian, alt-right anti-vaxxer who's anti-woke and anti-everything and a leprechaun. If that doesn't happen, all these dates will happen. Okay. I think that's it. It's finished.
Genius, I do shout, vai descender popozão. Genius, I do shout, vai descender popozão. In Portuguese, it means